Whether you're just getting started with connectors or here to clean up some old patterns, I want to show you how to take advantage of new features that we just launched. Entity connectors on type, a better way for managing your query parameters, and finally how to take advantage of batching to solve the N+1 problem. To get started, I have a banking API modeled after typical data you may see, such as customers, transactions, and card information. And the first feature I want to highlight is the ability to add entity connectors on type. For our customer type, we connected it using a root query and added entity true. But you have a better option now for entity connectors that does not involve the need to place them on the query type and use entity true. So if we scroll down to this card type, I'd like to make this an entity. To do this, you add the connector, including the selection set, and add your fields to the type after that. The key difference here is you do not need to add entity true. This is a much better pattern and will keep your query type clean and manageable. Next, scrolling up a bit, you see that transactions passes a query parameter as a filter. This pattern's valid, you can keep using it, but when you are dealing with APIs with tons of optional parameters, this string will become very long and difficult to read and maintain. So instead of doing that, let's move these parameters right below the base URL in a list. This is a much easier pattern to read and maintain. Now that I've made some updates, let's run this and check that our query is working as expected. I want to build out a query on customer that will also give us the cards associated with this customer and bring in the transactions as well to test that query parameter update. So first, let's add a few fields for the customer and make sure to pass in that ID. Then we'll add some card details. And finally, pass in some transactions with that status field we're going to set. Add a customer ID of 1 for this API, and we'll add a status in here as well. Running this, we can see that the data does return as expected, so this is great. But if we look at the customer, there's 3 associated cards with this customer. So let's take a look at the requests and see what's going on here. As you can see, each one of those cards is a single request that passes an ID. This is not ideal. This is a performance bottleneck and gets worse as you scale. This is your classic N+1 scenario, fetching a list of items n and then making additional requests for each one, leading to N+1 total calls. In connectors, you can leverage batching to solve this problem. Batching in connectors requires 2 things, a REST API that supports batching and the batch variable. Here, our batching endpoint takes an array of IDs on the body and is a post. I'll remove the single ID argument and set the body to IDs and then batch.id. Now, you may be thinking that you have batch APIs that don't work like this. That's fine. This will work with other batching patterns. The key thing to remember is you need the batch variable and a REST API that supports batching. Now, let's run this and see what happens to all those calls. If we execute the customer query again, we can see there is one single batched request to the card endpoint, and in the body, you can see our array of IDs. This is so much nicer and more performant. These patterns are all really easy to drop into an existing schema and the best way to start building something new with connectors. Check the links in the description for all the information you need to keep exploring these patterns, and leave a comment to let me know what you're building.